Hi, everyone. This is Barb Bruno. I want to welcome you to our training today. Our topic is the impact of training, which I know all of you are dealing with on a daily basis if you're in talent acquisition or human resource. There's three very important current workforce realities that we're all dealing with. Number one, over 50% of the workforce in the United States are millennials and Gen Z. And even more interesting than that statistic is by 2025, which is not even 2 years away, over 70% of the workforce will be millennials and Gen Z. Number two is personal and professional development are both top priorities of these generations. And number three, I think we're all facing the challenges of engagement and retention. I've never seen so many people accept a job and not show up, or accept a job and walk off the job a month later and disappear. No notice, no anything. I mean, it's a crazy workforce right now, but consistent training improves engagement, retention, and the level attained by the individuals that are participating in the training. If you want to attract, engage, and retain your employees, offering consistent training isn't optional anymore. Training is the one investment that will provide you with the greatest return on your investment. Now, I want to point out the shortcomings of most training programs because I'm often brought in to review training programs that companies are offering, or training programs, especially for the talent acquisition and recruiting team, because it's interesting that learning and development is usually under HR. That's the department that it's under, and yet very rarely is there robust training for the actual people in talent acquisition or the recruiting team. And these are some of the shortcomings I've noticed about most training programs that I've observed. There's a tremendous amount of information that's provided in a short period of time. And when you do that, maybe 5% is retained. In fact, when I speak at conferences, and I speak at conferences a lot, I'll never forget when I joined the National Speakers Association, they said less than 5% of your audience will change anything. They may love what you're saying, but less than 5% will do anything with the material you gave them. And that's why when I speak at a conference, I always at the end give action items, and I always try to do accountability partners so more people actually go back and do something with the information. But if you have a week or two of training, or during onboarding, you're doing onboarding and training, the employee is pretty overwhelmed and really only retains 5%. And so where do they get most of their training? They get it on the job. And the problem with on the job training, I mean, there's good points about on the job training, but who are they mirroring? When you've got people that have been on the job a long time, they've learned to take shortcuts. And so they've developed some good habits, they've developed some bad habits. And as a result, the bad habits just get permeated in the department because they're learning from each other. The third thing is too often content is dated due to the ever-changing workforce and workplace. I don't know about you, but I have never, ever seen things change so fast when it comes to talent acquisition and human resource, and just what's going on with the workforce and the workplace. I mean, you could have not predicted half of the changes that have gone on in the last 2 or 3 years, and they continue. Is AI impacting talent acquisition? The answer is yes. Is technology? The answer is yes. But just as new things are coming on board, job boards have lost their effectiveness. It's interesting because last year I do training for LinkedIn, and as a result, I have access to a lot of LinkedIn's big data. We do calls once a month, and I've done 18 courses for LinkedIn. And it's interesting because what they've proved is that job boards attract less than 15% of the workforce. And think about that. And your experienced talent acquisition professionals often take shortcuts just because they're bombarded with so many open requisitions. We keep hearing about layoffs and cutbacks, but according to LinkedIn, there are still 3 jobs for every 1 person out there. And yes, there's people that are available, but are they the best person? Do you want to surface the best person that answers a job board ad or answers your website posting, or do you want to go out there and attract the best person in the workforce for the jobs that you have open? And what I'm noticing is that too many people are way dependent on posting jobs, again, which only attracts 15% of the workforce. The other 85% are passive candidates. And the interesting thing is, According to LinkedIn, when people take a new job, they update their LinkedIn profile, and usually 90, 120 days out, they would update it, and they put other things on it. Now, within 24 hours after somebody accepts a new job, they're still available to look at opportunities. People are changing jobs more often than they ever have in the history of our country, and over 50% of the current workforce is not working their traditional 40-hour work week on site. You've got hybrid, you've got remote, you've got people doing, three 12-hour days. I mean, it's amazing. Later start dates. I know many companies, it's interesting because I was brought in to do consulting for a company, and their biggest problem were some of their best employees were always late at work. They just could not get there at 8 o'clock. And they're like, it's causing problems with everybody, but they're great employees, other than the fact that they just cannot get here by 8 o'clock. And I said, why don't you change their working hours from 8 to 5 to 9 to 6? And they go, we can't do that. We need coverage at 8. I go, no, offer it to everybody. Offer it to everybody. Offer everybody. You can work 8 to 5. You can work 9 to 6. You can work 10 to 7. And so they did it. And this company had 3,500 employees. And the interesting thing is they don't have that many people working the late hours, the 10 to 7, but mostly it's Gen Z and some millennials that don't have kids. They'd much rather get to work at 10 o'clock. And the interesting thing is they stay way past 7, because once they get there, they're fine. They just are not, early people. And I think that you are the heartbeat of your company. Whenever I hear I just spoke at the CEO conference, and I love when they refer to HR, talent acquisition, as overhead. And I'm always correcting them, saying, no, HR and talent acquisition is the heartbeat of your company. Without them, you would not achieve your goals and objectives. You will not achieve what you're trying to do unless your HR and talent acquisition team takes care of your employees that are currently working there and really attracts the best people out there so that they can do the job that you need done. It was interesting, in maybe a year ago, you saw some companies closing because they just could not attract talent. And again, you're hearing about all these major layoffs, but there's still 3 jobs for every 1 person out there. And unfortunately, when you get too dependent on posting jobs, I call it posting and praying. And you might have massive job board ads, you might have website postings, you might post in a lot of different areas. You're spending a fortune. Companies spent $2.5 billion with a B in 2022 on job board ads. Think about that. $2.5 billion to attract 15% of the workforce. And again, the other 85%, the interesting thing about the passive candidates, the other 85% of the workforce, is most of them have no intention of retiring from their current job. And they would look at another opportunity as long as it represented career advancement for them. They are wide open to listen to things that are career advancement, and stability. I remember when I first entered this profession that if somebody had more than 3 jobs in 10 years, we called them a job hopper. And no one wanted to interview them because they had more than 3 jobs in 10 years. And now you're lucky if somebody stays on the job a year or 18 months. I mean, the workforce has really changed, but so has the workplace. Now, I've also studied the best training programs because I've had the opportunity to do that as well. And the best training programs out there give you small amounts of training over a much longer period of time. And when people are being trained, they have to take notes. Have you ever given training? Have you ever been in learning and development, and you're presenting some training and you see half the people are not taking any notes at all, and you know that they've got their phone there and they're looking at their phone rather than even listening to you? It's proven that if somebody's being trained and they take notes, they're going to retain the information much more likely than if they don't take notes. And also, if you have any kind of training program, you've got to give weekly tests. I do a lot of training for continuing education units. In fact, a lot of my courses at LinkedIn are SHRM approved. And so you can get SHRM credit if you take my LinkedIn learning courses. But I've learned that every time I do a course, whether it's for LinkedIn or I do courses for many other industries for their certification programs, I know if I'm writing a course for a certification program that there have to be weekly tests. There have to be tests. And there have to be at least 12 questions, true and false, and multiple choice. And you've got to show the reason why the wrong answers are wrong. So you explain why the right answer is right, and you show why the wrong answers are wrong. So if certification programs are requiring that, when you have training in your company, if you're not testing after you're providing training, you have no clue whether that person retained the information that day, whether they're going to remember it a week from now, or they just took it because they were told they had to, and now they're going to learn from the people on the job. And again, they can learn good habits, they can learn bad habits. Also, you've got to have continuing education for the people that work for you, for your most tenured people as well as your new hires. You know, personal and professional development is one of the first questions that I hear from candidates. What is a professional development? What is a personal development? What is my career path? And then they want to know about your culture. And if your culture is not one that provides training, often they're not interested. They might be interested in your job, but everybody wants to get more marketable. They want to learn things. And one of the biggest mistakes I see talent acquisition people make right now is they find the perfect fit. One of your hiring managers gave you a rec. You've got someone who's doing the exact job and you're paying more money. And so you're so thrilled about this. Your hiring manager is thrilled when they interview the person, but then the person doesn't take the job. And you know why? Because there's no stretch involved. When people take a job, they want to learn something. If they're doing the exact job that you have available and there's nothing they're going to learn, then they're not becoming more marketable. And chances are they're either going to turn the job down or they're going to accept the job and keep interviewing. And that's just a reality of what's going on today. People are more networked right now than they've ever been in the history of our country. You know, we interact with more people in a month than our grandparents interacted with in 5 years. You know, think about how well networked all of you are. And do you have coaching calls? Do you do calls where your employees can just ask you questions? No training. It's just we're going to have a coaching call. You know, and anybody that has any questions, just hop on the call, and you do different departments at different times. But all it is people able to ask questions. And you go department by department, because sometimes people that work for you won't ask questions, but somebody else asks a question and it really helps the other people on the phone. And that's why it's so important that training has all of these elements. I've learned something else from LinkedIn Learning. When I first trained for LinkedIn Learning, that was 5 years ago. And what I learned is back then, nobody wants to read. They want to watch videos. I mean, just think of the popularity of YouTube. In fact, I'll admit, I don't know what I did before YouTube, because if I want to do anything, if I get stuck, when I call our tech team, do you know what they tell me? Turn off your computer. So right now, what I do is I turn off my computer to make sure that's not what's wrong with my computer. But then if something is popping up, I can get an answer quicker by just going on YouTube on my mobile device than I can, you know, interacting with our tech team. I mean, it's amazing what we learn from videos. If you're not using videos, if you're not learning from videos yourself, you know, so often that is one of the most effective ways to learn. Now, you know what, and all of you know what I do for a living. I mean, I've been involved in recruiting for over 30 years now. And so I spend my life trying to figure out how we can do our job better. I do a tremendous amount of training for HR and talent acquisition, also recruiters in the staffing and recruiting profession. But what I really want to do when I'm out there training, whether I'm speaking at an event, whether I'm doing in-house training for somebody or webinars for a company, I don't care what I'm doing, before I create any type of training or before I deliver training, I really want to understand the goals and objectives, because most of the time, you know, what talent acquisition people want to do is they want to fill their requisitions faster, and they want to send in the best talent versus the best talent that happens to respond to a job board ad or website posting. And you know now that that only represents 15%. If you want to schedule a call with one of our experts to discuss some of the challenges you're having with training right now, whether it's training for your own department or other training in your company, you know, please either copy that QR code or give us a call on that phone number, or you can go to our website on the bottom there and you can see all the different things that we offer. What we do is we sit back and we listen to what you're dealing with. We may be your solution, we may not be your solution. And if we're not, we're going to help you. We're going to tell you what to do, where you can go, you know, so the call is definitely going to be worth your time. We would never waste your time. And I believe a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I want you to look at something right now, because I've been doing so much in the talent acquisition space that what I've done the last year is I spent my time in a studio and I actually developed my own learning management system, which was a nightmare because I didn't realize how much bandwidth videos have. But whether you utilize my training or look at your own program and try to upgrade it, I want to give you some insight into what I've developed because it can help you with what you're doing on your own, or this might be a nice complement to your current training program. You've got to make your training really simple to get into. For instance, when individuals log into our training, they've got a username and a password, and once they've logged in once, they're in. And we have instant messaging. So if anybody has a question, they come to us, not to their supervisor, to find things that they want. We have a home page that basically shows them everything they've done, all the courses they've taken, everything they've done, and they've got this resource for as long as they work for you. And again, we've taken best practices. I do so much training and I do training for all size companies. I do for smaller companies right up through Fortune 100 companies. And so but my heart is with the talent acquisition team because I realize the role you play. I realize how important you are. When I'm out there speaking to these CEO conferences, I'm telling them that they should really embrace you. They should really understand the value. And if nothing, not cut back your department, but enhance it because there's so much more. I think all of you should have a CRO, a Chief Retention Officer. I've been seeing a need for that position for years. It's not there yet, but I think it will be in the future with the progressive companies. The lessons that we do are videos. And so, our program basically is 2 weeks long. It's self-paced, so you don't have to take it every day. You could take it 1 day a week. You could take it 3 days a week, but it's 2 weeks long, and you could either read it or you can watch videos. So we're making it very simple. And then there's action items with each lesson. And more importantly, we have people take notes. And this is a very important element of any training program. And then after they take notes, they're tested. There's a once a week test that scores itself. So you don't have to score it. And if the person doesn't score 80%, guess what? They have to go back and retake the test. You'll be able to see if you put your talent acquisition team in this training, you can see how many lessons they've completed. So you can check their process, but you don't have to be involved in the training. And in addition, there's a comprehensive library that has folders where if you want to spot train anybody on anything, you can do that. We share all of our forms with you. For instance, we've been, how do you close? How do you pre-close? What are some of the best questions to ask in a debrief? Are you getting performance objectives when you're taking job recs now? Because once we added performance objectives to job recs, we filled a much higher level of position. And not only are we filling our recs faster, but the candidates we're placing are staying because we share the performance objectives with the potential hire. We share the performance objectives with everybody. Every interview or scorecard is against the performance objectives. And so we give you everything we learn, and I keep learning. And so this is a living, breathing training product that we're constantly upgrading. We also have live calls. And look, here's a recruiting presentation. If you're dependent on job board ads or website postings, we show you how you can recruit passive candidates. We give you resources to go. We show you how to increase your referrals. If 40% of your new hires are not referrals, it's your employee referral program. In fact, that's one of the breakouts I did at the CEO conference. I taught them how to go back and change their employee referral program. Imagine how much easier your job would be if 40% of your new hires were referrals. You see, the people that work for you, everybody that works for you, I hate to have you think this way, but I want you to think this way. Everybody that works for you right now, they're either your army of recruiters. They're going out there and telling everybody what a great place you are to work for, and they're interesting other people to come and work for you, or they're being recruited away by your competitors. There's nothing in between. Either they're helping you recruit people, everybody that works for you, every hiring manager, everybody in your company is part of your recruiting team. And too often it's all on HR, it's all on talent acquisition. No, everybody that works for you, that's your army of recruiters. But if you don't have a good employee referral program, that's why you're not getting referrals. But we'll teach you how to do that. We'll show you, exactly what you need, what changes you have to make. We give you, since I trained for LinkedIn, they gave me, a profile. This is how you write a LinkedIn profile. These are the, these are the elements that must be there. So anything that I get, I put in these courses. So would I give you a guideline on how to develop better LinkedIn profiles for all of your employees? That's just part of our training. We also do coaching calls and webinars every month. So every month, like on the 13th of this month, we're going to do attitude and best use of your time. Because with the number of recs you're juggling on top of everything else that you do, and you and I both know the impact of attitude. And we also do a coaching call once a month where people ask questions. And I've been told by talent acquisition people all over the country that I didn't even know some of the things that other people were asking you, Barb. Like they're asking you questions and we didn't even know that existed. For instance, I was talking about a Chrome extension during our last call called Crystal Knows. And I don't know if all of you were using it, but it's a great tool to use for your hiring managers to really get insight into your hiring managers, to know their personality, because especially when you're dealing with someone new, it's hard. And Crystal Knows is just a Chrome extension that you can download. And if you put a person into the Chrome extension, you put their name, it gives you a disc profile on the person, a mini disc profile. Tells you everything about them so you know how to interact with them. Imagine the value of that. Now, they've got a free version and a paid version, but you can just use different Gmail accounts. You can only do so many free, but you can just use different Gmail accounts to do these profiling. But I discover all these tools because I'm out there. I attend conferences, I'm talking to employers, I'm talking to technology experts all the time. So I will share a tremendous amount of free resources because I don't believe you should be paying for many resources at all to find talent. I think the best resources are free. And we basically give you a list and show you, we update it constantly because things keep changing. But for fun, download the Crystal Knows Chrome extension after this call and put yourself in there and see what it says. It's amazing. Now, so you have the spelling of this. It's just like the woman's name, Crystal, Crystal, and then knows, Knows. So crystalknows.com. Have some fun with it. But those are the kind of tools that I learn about because I'm out there. I also attend technology conferences to stay on top of anything that can help you. And again, I share everything I know. Again, we'd love to learn about your goals and objectives so we can help you achieve them. And all you have to do is either click on the QR code or call our office. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking that this is going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. It's not going to. I have priced this lower than most other training programs for talent acquisition professionals. And once you invest in one of our tutors, it costs you a one-time charge of $50 to put your person through our course. So imagine training your talent acquisition team for a cost of $50 once you own our tutor. Our talent acquisition tutor clients have all experienced increased engagement and retention of their talent acquisition professionals because we survey. And I'm on the calls live twice a month, so I'm interacting with the people that buy my training because trust me, if anybody had complaints, they would bring it up on the calls because I make myself available twice a week live to everybody. They're filling open requisitions faster with the best talent. Again, these are often the 85%, the passive candidates. They've learned how to recruit. Think of the money you would save if you weren't using job board ads. And you can't just sit there and post and pray. I mean, this empowers you. This empowers talent acquisition professionals and recruiters. I always compare recruiters to goldfish or sharks. A goldfish sits in a bowl and waits to be fed and waits for the water to be changed. And if somebody doesn't feed them or change their water, they'll eventually die. A shark, on the other hand, goes out and hunts down what they need. And eventually they'll eat the goldfish. And so you have to be very shark-like in this workforce and in this workplace because posting and praying is just not effective anymore. It's just not. It's not working. Now we're offering a 25% discount off our tutor because we again, and anybody, the first 5 companies who invest in our tutor, to make it even a better offer, we're going to give you 5 free seats that you can use whenever you want to use them. You might only have 1 person in your department or 2, but you'll get 5 free seats. Or if you've got a larger HR department, everyone in HR should learn how to do talent acquisition regardless. It could be an employer relations person, it could be your benefits person. Everybody's got to understand that they're part of the recruiting team. And again, anyone who invests in this by April 15th will get the 25% discount. But if you click on now, or if you call that number and become one of the first 5, get on the list, then you'll get the 5 extra seats. So normally I don't do much selling when I'm training. I think all of you know I release LinkedIn courses free twice a year. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you will see when I can release the courses. They let me do free a year. I do put 2 posts a week on my LinkedIn feed, and I give free training constantly. But I've realized that so many talent acquisition people were coming to me for training, and they were doing it by webinars, or they were bringing me in to do training, but then you don't have it long term. It's something that I come in and do, where this, any upgrades on this, you get free. So anything we add to it, you get automatically. And so that's why I created this program. It was basically because of the need. And so many companies would hire me to do, like do 3 webinars for us. And I would, then the next quarter, do 3 more webinars and do 3 more webinars. And I realized that's very expensive, and only the people that work for you then have the advantage of the training. And so it doesn't become part of your comprehensive training program. And I'm sure all of you have training. And so this will enhance the training you have, because I'm telling you, I have never made so many changes in the way I'm training that I have in the last 2 years. All the training that I have, I basically kicked to the curb last year. And in January of last year, made a commitment to rewrite everything to reflect what's going on right now and what's going to go on in the near future. But, I can keep abreast of trends. I follow various economists. I follow, LinkedIn gives me tremendous information as one of their trainers. But I would love nothing more than to have you fill your requisitions faster with the best talent out there. Because you know what? You and I are not judged on the number of recs we fill. We are. I mean, they want us to fill all these recs, and every hiring manager thinks their rec is the priority. But what we're really judged on, the people that they hire, do they become engaged and retained? Because, and the other thing we have to do, we have to stop. Imagine a funnel, and too often people are pouring out the bottom of the funnel, and we keep filling the top with great talent. But if the hiring managers are not doing what they can to retain people, they keep falling off the bottom. And so in our training, we also show you things like stay interviews and things you can propose to your company that will help them, number one, see the value that you're bringing to the table, and also stop all that leaking off the bottom of the funnel when you're losing so many of your good people. Too many companies are losing as many people as they're hiring at the top. So, we've got to stop that, and we've got to hire the best people. And again, if you're not asking for performance objectives, this is free training. Make sure starting today, every time you write a job rec, get performance objectives. It will change the way you recruit. It's going to change the way you look at every job, and share them with the candidates. In a performance objective, if you've never done that before, just ask them when they give you a job, how are you going to evaluate this person in 6 months to a year? I want you to come back to me and say, best hire I ever made. I want you to come back and say, best hire I ever made. So what will my candidate have to achieve in 6 months or a year to be the best hire you ever made? The funny thing is, most hiring, I don't know. Well, why don't we determine this? Because I don't want to just put somebody in a job. I want them to be retained, engaged and retained. So let's figure out how we evaluate them. And you know what this does? That long laundry list of skills they give us and credentials that they have to have. When you look at how they're going to evaluate somebody, it eliminates sometimes half of the list. And there's probably things that should be on the list that are not on the list. That if your candidate, if the person you hire is going to accomplish those things, they need some things that the employer didn't even ask for, or hiring manager didn't even ask for. So performance objectives are a game changer. That's just one example of the type of training that we provide with this talent acquisition tutor. But you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by talking to one of my experts or clicking on that QR code, and you can set up an appointment that's convenient for you. And we're here to answer questions. And again, I appreciate all of you here. I know how busy you are. I know how many recs you are balancing right now, but I always say I'll take 30 minutes, and I've taken 29 minutes, but I do want to open it for questions if any of you have any questions of me. So let's open it. You can ask me questions one of 2 ways. You can click on the attendee list on the control panel on the right. If you put the phone number, access code, and PIN number in, you can click that little hand that's above your name, and that I can unmute your line, and you and I can talk. And so if you have any questions for me, I'm a phone person. I love to talk to people one-on-one. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. Or you could go below on the control panel to the bottom. You see the word questions? If you type in a question there, I'll be glad to answer it. And again, if you don't want me to say your first name, I always personalize my responses. Just I do. I'll only say your first name. If you don't want me to say your first name, then just put down personal or confidential or anonymous before you type in a question. Okay, I don't see any hands. Let me go down. I see Frank. Are you the same Barb Bruno that wrote High Tech, High Touch? I am. That is my book. So what he is asking about, I did get approached by Kogan Page Publishing in London, and they wanted me to write a textbook on recruiting that can be used as a textbook in colleges, but also could be used to train recruiters. So that is my book, High Tech, High Touch Recruiting. So I am the same person. How do I take continuing education courses for you for my SHRM certification? Well, you know, all the LinkedIn courses that if you go to LinkedIn Learning and just type in Barb Bruno, you'll see all my LinkedIn Learning courses, but they're not as comprehensive as this tutor would be. But they are. LinkedIn Learning has learning tracks where, like, there's a learning track for technical recruiting. There's a learning track for different things. If you go to LinkedIn Learning and ask about their learning tracks, they also have tied in continuing education to all the learning tracks, and they're all very current. It's all very current information. How can I talk to you? If you want to talk to me personally, you call that phone number that's on here, and I've got you calling Jody. Jody has worked for me for over 20 years, and she's like talking to a mini me. But if you want to talk to me personally, of course I would talk to you. And so just call that number and tell Jody that you'd like to have a conversation with me, and I will call you. Again, I'm very much a phone person. I answer my cell phone. I'm not like my children. I answer my phone, and I love to talk to people. And if you just want to call to get advice, I'm open to do that. I just want to make all of you more successful. I want to make your job easier. And I realize everything that's on you. And people don't realize the pressure that HR and talent acquisition is under. Whether you're hiring people, whether you're laying off, whether it's status quo, there's so many things that you deal with on a normal basis that, and again, thank you all for being there, because I always tell everybody you're the heartbeat of the company. I'm so honored that so many of you showed up for this call and that so many of you follow me and take my courses. It really warms my heart that so many of you have followed me and watched my training in that, because I really respect what you do for a living. And I will do everything I can. Every conference I speak at, I always talk about the importance of HR and talent acquisition. So I'm your biggest advocate out there. I want all of you to know that. So we're at 12:32. I did always promise these calls would last 30 minutes. I'm so glad you're here. Please arrange a call with us. If nothing else, tell us what your challenges are. What are you trying to do? And again, if we can't help you, we could probably give you information that will still help you. So we look forward to talking to all of you. I'm so glad that you're here. And good luck. I hope you had a great first quarter, and I'm hoping that all of you have a great last 3 quarters of this year. Thanks, everybody, for being here.